Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let's get started. Almost all of you know what is IoT. So it's basically referred to as the Internet of Things. And you usually start kind of hearing about this very frequently in about 2008-9. It existed long before this. In early 2000s, maybe even before that, there were IoT networks that were existing, but there was not much discussion on this, as this was not very popular at that time. Earlier, they used to have some very specific names for this. Wireless sensor networks is one example of this. So they were locally constrained networks, not connected to the internet usually. But after the internet kind of took off in a very big way during the early part of 2000s, you begin to hear more and more about IoT. Okay, so the reason why it became so popular or it came into public consciousness is because the number of devices that were connected to internet were more than the people that are existing on this world. So earlier, internet used to be something which was very niche for very small number of people. Okay, so when we were very young, we did not have access to the kind of internet that you have now. Internet was only available in something called cyber cafes. You had to go there, stand in queue, and then wait for 10 minutes for the email to load. It was that bad. And we used telephone connections to connect, that wired telephone connections to connect, and it took a huge amount of time. Okay, 56 kbps was the standard speed at that time. Before that, there used to be 28.8 kbps speeds. Now you're talking about megabit speeds. So from that time onwards, things have moved on to a very different plane altogether. And as the availability of internet and the bandwidth increased, you have more and more devices getting connected, and IoT became more feasible. Earlier, the network and the constraints did not allow you to do it on a large scale. Now things have changed because of fiber optics and other things which can transfer a large amount of data very quickly. Because of that, you have more devices getting connected, more bandwidth available, and therefore explosion of IoT. Okay. This is how the overall IoT ecosystem works. Right? Is there anything in this that you do not understand? I want this to be a more interactive kind of a session. Whatever I know, I will try to tell you. You may be knowing sometimes more than what I know. So you can tell me what you know, and we can learn together. So it's not a big deal. Okay, I don't have any issues with you telling me that I am wrong or anything like that. Both of us are learning. So, and the technology field is evolving so fast that what I may have learned a couple of years back may not be relevant today. You may have learned something new. So yeah, does not matter. Okay, we'll both learn together and grow together. So that's how it goes. Okay, so is it understandable? Do you people know all the parts in this? At least you have heard of these things?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is very similar to what you will find in a traditional IT system also. Okay, except that instead of a traditional IT kind of a network, we have IoT network. Otherwise, the basic components are all the same. Okay, so you can see here that there are several aspects to it. You have the individual IoT devices which do the actual these are called edge devices because they are sitting on the outer edge of the IoT spectrum. So these are the devices which directly interact with the environment, directly interact with you, or maybe if you imagine a connected temperature sensor, right? So the temperature sensor, microcontroller, all those things will be considered as the edge nodes. So the actual sensing of temperature and other things is being done by the IoT devices. The data is getting transferred through a data gateway into the internet. And once that gateway will usually be a software, or it can also be if it's a lot of hardware is there, the dedicated hardware system could be there to create a gateway for it. Then it goes to internet, and then it kind of can be taken off anywhere that you want. You can either do analytics, storage at a remote location. You can do all kinds of command and control, all those things, request for information, all those kind of things can be done parallelly, simultaneously, without much problem. Once you connect to the internet, the whole thing becomes just like a conventional IT based system. So that is the major advantage of IoT. So you can kind of leverage the already existing system to make or to do a lot of analysis and improvements to the existing system. And this is the person who was responsible for IoT. So Kevin Ashton is the person who first used this term, IoT, and he's a kind of a major kind of a godfather-like figure in IoT. And kind of he started long back in 1999, something like that, where they were looking at things like logistic problems, how to track shipments, how to ensure that everything is working properly, supply chain management. So in all those places, IoT comes in very handy. Okay. So this is the person who is he's still kind of very much active, and you can see he's the founder of the Auto ID Lab at MIT. So it's kind of quite a big guy as far as IoT is concerned. Okay. So once the terms are out, we go into something called the evolution of internet. Okay. This may take a little time. I suggest a lot of content is there, so I suggest that you read this. I'll stop talking for a couple of seconds. You can go through this and then we can continue with the discussion. Okay, so just please read this thing. I suggest that you read the contents in this, and then we can move on. I'll stop for 2 seconds. All right, so I hope you have gone through this.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Yeah, so this is what I was talking about when we talked about internet evolution. The first phase is what I was talking about when we were kids, right? So at that time, about early 2000s, we, at least in India, India was like a decade behind the Western economies to take off on internet. So about early 2000s, you have the startings of connection and of internet coming into prominence, right? Because that was the time when people started moving to internet to do searching, to have emails, okay, and also things like your 10th standard and 12th standard results started getting put on internet by the institution. CBSE and ICSE people actually started putting your results on the internet. When I was in 10th standard, it took me 30 minutes to download my mark sheet from the internet. You can imagine what that is. I mean, like today, just click once and the whole thing just comes out. It took me 30 minutes, at least 30 minutes to download that a simple piece of mark sheet. So it was that bad at that point of time. Okay, so from there onwards, but there were some rudimentary ideas on what can be done. What as we kind of were connecting to the available information highway that was the internet. A lot of material was available at that time. We had started seeing things like the IEEE archives and all those things. But this is about 21 years ago. I'm talking about things that happened 21 years ago. Okay. Now you have this IEEE Explorer. Just check on the Google or check in Scopus and you will get all the research papers. Google Scholar, you just type and get the research papers. 20 years ago, it was not like this. You had to go to a library, physically pick up the copy, read something. If you don't understand, you go back to the previous editions, check again, keep on repeating the whole process. It was very difficult at that time. So I just want you to appreciate how much we have moved on over the past 20 years. So you have this connectivity was taking off at that time. This is called the phase 1. After this, you started something called the internet became more reliable. It became more secure. People became more aware of what are the things that can be done. And that is when things like supply chain management and e-commerce took off. That is where you see the beginnings of companies like Flipkart and I don't know if it is still there, Snapdeal, Amazon. Amazon actually started in US, so we can't compare it to what happened in India. But I hope all of you know what Flipkart is, right? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes,
So Flipkart is an example of what happened during the second phase in India. E-commerce. It took off in a very big way. Okay, some of them just fell off by the wayside. You had companies like Infibeam and Snapdeal, etc., about which we do not hear anymore. But Flipkart actually took off very well. Okay, so that is where the second phase kind of started. As we moved on, we were able to increase the bandwidth. We were able to get better access to data. We were able to see things which were on social media. So that is when things like Facebook became popular. Okay, so you had several social media platforms which came in at that point of time, which became kind of very popular. Facebook is one. Then you have something like LinkedIn. Some of you may have profiles on your LinkedIn also. Okay, so Facebook, LinkedIn, and then there are some other things which did not work out very well. Google had something called Orkut and so many things. Okay, so the reason why they became popular in the third phase is because they had access to more bandwidth and more resources. You could play videos in the social media site that you had. So you could upload videos in your Facebook profile. You could kind of watch somebody else do it, like others' videos. So you could actually did not need to have a server at your home. Everything could be done on the cloud. So several advantages were there for the third phase. Okay, and the final phase that we are talking about is the IoT. This is the one which is kind of what we are interested in right now. And the reason why we are interested in right now is because now we have sufficient capacity to connect not just people, but we can connect things as well. Okay, and as more and more things get connected, what they will do is they will send more and more data. Right, so if you connect a temperature sensor to the system, the temperature sensor will continue to pump data all the time. So if you have 20 temperature sensors in your home, all 20 temperature sensors will be sending data all the time. So if it was in the first phase, the whole system would have got saturated. But now we have sufficient bandwidth and sufficient resources to manage all of those. Okay, so that is how this whole process works. And right now we can call ourselves to be in the fourth phase of the internet revolution, where we are talking about IoT. Any questions?
No, sir.
Yes, right. So we look at this. Okay, so IoT and digitization. What do you mean by IoT and what do you mean by digitization? Right? IoT is kind of very clear. We are connecting things to the internet. That's it. Very easy. But digitization means a lot of different things. What do you mean by digitization? Digitization is when you bring all the things together. Your IoT devices plus sensing plus business plus marketing, all those things, when they come together, you have something like a digitization of a complete environment. Digitization typically refers to digitization of an ecosystem or an environment. Okay, so one example that you have is that of Nest. Have you seen this thing before? Google Nest? Usually you will find them in cold countries. So if you have been to Europe or US, you should be able to see these things. There is something called a thermostat that most of the people have there in their homes. So what happens is that Nest is like a learning thermostat. Thermostat basically means it is a kind of a system which keeps your house warm. at a particular temperature. So your entire house becomes warm at that temperature. Okay, so Google makes one smart thermostat called a Nest, which is this one. And what it does is it actually learns from your preferences. It can identify when you are at home, when you are not at home, what temperature you like, what temperature you don't like, how many people should have what temperature. It can learn all of this using AI built into it. And it's connected to the cloud. So it gets updates periodically. It learns your behavior and does the settings automatically. And overall, it kind of results in huge amounts of savings in terms of the heating bill that people kind of have reported. Okay, so this is an example of digitization. So everything is kind of in a kind of a closed loop kind of a scenario. So you have the temperature sensor, which is sensing, it goes into the cloud, processing happens, comes out, and then you have the metering company automatically metering or billing you according to that. And most likely, if you have connected the wallets with it, automatic paying will also happen. So your entire system has been digitized. You don't have to worry about anything as long as you have sufficient money in your balance. So that's the idea of digitization as a whole. So IoT is an enabler for digitization of environments such as home, business, industry, etc. Does it make sense? Hello?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes. And this is what you can actually do for measurements using IoT. Almost all the measurement systems that you have studied. Have you done any course on sensing? I don't know. I just wanted to know. Any courses on sensors or something like that? Have you done that so far?
No, sir.
Oh, so no sensing. No, I mean, like, do you know what kind of flow sensors are used, or accelerometers, or vibration sensing? Those kind of things you have not studied.
Sir, no, sir.
Okay. Because that is a very critical aspect of IoT. Why? Because IoT is something which is used for connecting your physical environment to an IT system, right? So Internet of Things, these things actually interact with the environment as such. So it is very important that you know what kind of sensors are used. But still, if you have not gone through that, I'll be walking you through different kinds of sensors that you can connect and how they work and so on and so forth. So it should not be a big problem. But please understand that measurements are a key aspect of IoT. They are the first phase of IoT, the first part of IoT. Right. So on the edge, you have the edge nodes which are sitting in, and outside the edge is the natural environment, and inside the edge is the IT infrastructure. This forms the boundary. IoT systems or the IoT edge 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 nodes form the boundary between the physical and the IT infrastructure. So that is something that you should be knowing. Okay. And when we talk about digitization, as I was saying, I gave you one example of home. So there are several ways in which you can digitize the whole system. Okay. So one example is medical devices or medical IoT can be done, or the whole medical process can be digitized. You can have things like smart home. You can see here. So complete smart home system can be digitized. So that is another way in which IoT can help in digitization. Agriculture can be digitized. Now we have several experiments which are going on where the whole cycle of planting the seeds to harvesting the crops can be done automatically with the help of IoT and robotics. This is a huge area in which work is currently going on. Very interesting, but it requires a lot more sophisticated equipments than you think. Agriculture is not something that people associate with high technology, but it is a very, very complicated field to work in if you're completely automating the whole system or completely digitizing the entire system. So this is something interesting. And industrial IoT, this is taking off in a very big way. So you have IoT, and then you have something called industrial IoT or IIoT. So IIoT is a major kind of a focus area for companies today. How do you automate the industries? you know that most of the, how many of you have heard of IIoT? Can I see a show of hands? IIoT? Okay. Only one of you have heard of it. Okay. So the idea is that you can have Internet of Things, and then you have a separate category called Industrial Internet of Things. What does that mean? Is that you create a Internet of industrial machinery and industrial infrastructure in a particular plant or for a particular company as a whole. The reason for doing that is because you have currently what you have is you have if you go to a factory or any manufacturing plant, you will see that machines are very far spread out. They are at different locations. And if you have like a big company like say maybe ACC Cements that you see in Coimbatore, you have several factories all around the place, right? So how do you connect all of them together? How do you manage the machines together? How do you do things like preventive maintenance or predictive maintenance for the devices so that the downtime for the machines is minimal, how the damages are minimal, how the productivity can be increased? All this can be realized using the industrial IoT, because you are able to get measurements from the machines, the output data from the machines in almost real time. Currently what they do is they use wired connections. So they have like Ethernet cables running all throughout the place, but it is not a very good way of doing things, because you will eventually kind of lose a lot of information. Network reliability will be an issue because a lot of heavy equipment is moving about, right? You cannot have a Ethernet cable running underneath a 50-ton dump truck, right, which is running around all over the place. So best option is to connect it to through wireless networks and give it a little more security. So in that case, industrial IoT seems to be a good option. Okay. So these are all different aspects in which IoT can help more in digitization. Okay. If you have any questions, please go ahead and ask. Anything in general?
No.
Okay. So I will go to the next slide now. This is the overall growth trajectory that is planned. I got it up to 2020 only. So I believe that it has already crossed the 50 billion mark as far as IoT is concerned. So you can see here, kind of became very popular in the early 2000s. So you can see this is 02. This is 1990s, okay, 90, 92, 94, 96, and so on. So you can see it took off from about 2002 onwards, and it's kind of going exponentially up, and eventually you will be able to see, I believe it's gone more than 50 billion anyway, so you will be seeing about 100 billion or so devices connected to the internet already. So now you have all kinds of automation that is happening. So you can unlock and lock your room remotely, that is through IoT. You can have smart fridges, smart bulbs. I hope all of you already, some of you may be already using the smart bulbs and smart sockets, etc., right? That Philips Hue and all that you have heard of?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so they are all basically IoT devices. Like you can have 50 million hues and lights just for fun, but they are an example of IoT devices. So you can connect them through your Wi-Fi. So that is one good thing that has. These things are basically gimmicky, not very relevant, but there are several other things which are very useful. Okay. So these are examples of IoT. Okay. So you can see that this has happened, and you can see we look at the convergence of IT and OT. I think I will stop with this slide for today and just have a look at this. This is a very, it's not as simple a slide as it looks. Okay, this has got a lot of information in it. So OT is operational technology. So how you have the interrelationships between IT and OT is given in this. please have a look at this very carefully and let me know if you do not understand any part of it. Okay, I'll just be quiet for 2 seconds and then you can just have a look at it. Done? Do you have any questions on this? You should have a lot of questions on this. Please do ask. I don't think many of you have seen this kind of a slide before, so you should have a lot of questions. I'm expecting some, so please go ahead and ask. Am I audible? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Either you understood all of it or you did not understand any of it. What is the question? What is the problem? Can you just please let me know?
Sir, most of the things we have already seen before, sir. Only the industrial controllers like PLC that we have not seen.
Okay, right. So I'll just explain this very briefly. How much time do I have? 4 minutes to go, so I'll just quickly explain what this is. Okay, so what we have is we have 4 different verticals that are supported by cloud and edge type networks. Okay, so you have systems, IT management, devices, and operational technology. So when we talk about IT systems, we are talking about things like controlling or connecting the office devices, servers, etc., etc. So these are your conventional IT system. Okay, and when you have a kind of confluence of IT and devices which are mobile, you have something called IoT, or maybe like have a set of edge devices, etc. So you have tablets, smartphones, your smart bulb, etc. All those kind of things that you see, they are coming under IoT, because we are not much worried about anything else rather than connecting the device to the network and controlling it basically. So you have standard IoT, which is kind of made up using devices, IT to manage the information, and the cloud and edge networks connectivity that you have. Okay, connectivity as far as we been for smart bulbs or something like that, you have the Wi-Fi. Okay, the third category that you see is when you have devices and operational technology both coming in together and connected through the cloud or connected through the edge networks that you have, then you come up with something called IIoT, because you're trying to control devices like robots, etc., which are going to manage physical processes. Because these are devices which are going to control physical processes. When something like that happens, you have IIoT. When you are doing something which is like an open loop kind of a control system, you have something like a simple IoT. When you have a closed loop kind of system, which typically gets worked on in the industries, you have something called IIoT, because you have sensors, cameras, you have controllers, you have actuators, and so many other things also. So that forms your IIoT, industrial IoT. And the last one, which is very important, is the one when you control, when you kind of try to control the physical processes that are happening with the help of IT-enabled systems. That is done with the help of something called PLCs and SCADAs. PLC stands for Programmable Logic Controllers. DCS stands for Distributed Control System. And SCADA stands for Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition. These are the devices which are, SCADA systems are typically used in the industry to control industrial processes. One example I would give is you have seen, let's say, You have seen the example of maybe like say documentaries on Indian Railways or something like that, where they sit on or maybe like say the ISRO, right? When they do the space launch and all those things, you have seen that they will be sitting in one big room with a lot of data being displayed on the screen. Lot of screens will be there where all the data will be coming in, and they will have a lot of buttons here which they will be pushing and doing things like that. So that is an example of SCADA, because all the control is kind of coming from all over the place, and you are able to control industrial processes. Traditionally, how these kind of industrial processes such as machines, etc., were connected was with the help of SCADA. SCADA is still the biggest way in which industrial systems are connected to each other. And that if you have been to an industrial visit or if you have been to an industry, you will see that there will always be a control station where some operators will be sitting and monitoring the parameters of the plant. So the connections in those cases are invariably through SCADA systems. They will look like PC monitors and all those things, but the background will be slightly different. The control action and the connections will be all done through SCADA software. So you have companies like Siemens, Allen Bradley, Schneider. Those kind of companies kind of provide a lot of these kind of systems. Okay. So I think I'll stop with this for today. If you have any queries, please go ahead and ask. Otherwise, we can stop. Anything?
I guess no, sir.
Okay, so then what I will do is I will keep you updated. Please add me to the group. I'll update you on the situation of lab today. Okay, let me find out if we are in a position to conduct the lab without calling you people to the campus. So I will talk to sir and find out, and I'll update you. Okay. So thank you all for attending. I think we are out of time now, and please add me to the group. And if you have any queries, please feel free to contact me. Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.